This episode is brought to you by PetSmart. Imagine life without your pet. Unthinkable, right? That's why taking care of their well-being is job number one. And PetSmart has everything you need to do anything for your pet. PetSmart's expertise in nutrition, training, veterinary care, and more can help you take care of your pet's well-being the same way your pet takes care of yours. Care the way pets do. Shop now at PetSmart.com.
For those who love it loud, Pantheon Podcast presents Rockin' Pod Weekend, Nashville, March 17th through the 19th. It's a rock convention featuring panels, interviews, podcasts, signing sessions, vinyl, comic books, pop culture, and collectibles. Over 50 celebrity guests, including members of Mr. Big, Tough, Great White, Keel, Winger, Accept, and Twisted Sister. Live concerts including Rare Hair on Friday, Keel Fest 2 on Saturday, and Eric Martin's Big Acoustic on Sunday. Plus a rockin' comedy show featuring Courtney Cronin-Dold, Don Jameson from That Metal Show, and Craig Gass from The Howard Stern Show, and a whole lot more. Full details at rockinpod.com. Rockin' Pod Weekend is presented by Pantheon Podcasts in association with RFK Media, Third Power Amplification, and BobbyDreyer.com.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely, pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mistress Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 144 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Billy Sheehan from the Winery Dogs, I want to remind you about everything you can find at MistressCarrie.com. Not only can you find every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast, but you can also find every episode of my video show, Cocktails in the War Room. You can also check out my bio and my blog. You can send me a message right here in the studio by clicking the Message the Studio button. The concert calendar is expanded to show all the rock shows coming to New England. And you can shop in the online Mistress Carrie store that's filled with t-shirts and hoodies, beanies and clear plastic concert-approved bags, and a ton of stuff to outfit your war room, like pint and shot glasses, coasters, and a 7-in-1 bartender tool. And there's always new stuff popping up in the store. Find all that and more at MistressCarrie.com. My guest this week is legendary bass player Billy Sheehan from the Winery Dogs, who first appeared on the podcast on a bonus episode back on August 4th, 2021. Well, the Winery Dogs are out on the road in support of their latest album, 3, and I caught back up with Billy to talk about songwriting and how much he loves touring in a bus. We talked about singing and some of his questionable 80s fashion. We talked about the new generation of rock fans that he sees at the show and what it's like to be a musician and have your instrument stolen. We also talked about his man cave, his pet cats, and at the time of the interview, what he could tell me about the Mr. Big reunion. Obviously, a few things have changed since we talked. So allow me to reintroduce you to Billy Sheehan from the Winery Dogs. Mr. Billy Sheehan, good morning.
Hello, Mistress Carrie. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to see you again. I met you last year at the podcast convention in Nashville.
I remember.
And now you're out on the road with the Winery Dogs. Where are you right now?
I'm in the back lounge of our tour bus. It's a very nice spot. We're traveling to our first show on this tour in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, right outside of Pittsburgh. And we do 4 in a row, 2 days off, then New York City, and then more. And there are many, many, many more dates to be announced. All of the Western U.S. has not been announced yet. They're still putting all that together, booking a lot of places. So it's going to be a busy year, I'm happy to say.
Usually when I talk to musicians, the first thing I ask them is, do you know where you are? And judging by how fast you're going down the road right now, you probably don't.
I do not. Sometimes, now that we have cell phones, sometimes we'll click on the maps on cell phone just to see where the heck the bus is, because we're usually sleeping in the bunk or, we're traveling tonight so we can't see it. But it's a great bus, great adventure. I'm out with Richie and Mike, and we're all supremely excited to be on tour again. It's fantastic.
You've been doing this a long time. How do you find bus travel still? Does sleeping on the bus still bring difficulty, or have you gotten so used to it by now?
The bus is amazing. I think it was Stephen Stills that recorded the sound of the bus while it was driving. So when he got home off tour, he could play it and help him fall asleep. So I slept like a baby last night for the first time in a while. And it's super comfortable. I could do a bus tour forever. One flight, though, and I'm out. Flying is just awful, as everyone probably realizes these days. But bus tours are amazing. European bus tours are so great. The double-decker bus and little cappuccino cafe lounge up front. We use German buses a lot in Europe, and they're clean and righteous, leather and comfort everywhere. Drivers are right on time. Bus tours are the greatest. It's so much fun. You just get out of the gig, get down there, and go to the next show. We're very, very lucky. This is an amazing. I posted up a picture of this bus, an amazing bus, and it's over. I think it's like maybe 1,300 comments and about 20,000 likes. People are so excited about seeing the bus. So it's a great experience.
Do you have a hard time sleeping when you're not in the bus like Stephen Stills does?
No, I'm a pretty good sleeper. I could lay down on any surface and go out. Because from touring so much, you got to learn how to take a nap once in a while. Because you only you got 30 minutes here, and we had no sleep at all. So I can conk out and go hard, completely unconscious sleep, and then wake up totally there without any grogginess. So I'm very lucky. I know a lot of people can't sleep easy, and it's agonizing, but I'm lucky. I sleep good.
My grandmother used to say when we were kids that if you could fall asleep like that, you had a clean conscience.
Oh, man, I don't know about that, but maybe that's true.
One of the things about being on a tour on a bus, especially a lot of touring in a year like you guys are going to do, is that you always get those kind of late night truck stops. The adventures in the middle of nowhere. When that happens, do you still, after all these years of touring, go and check out the truck stops? And what kind of weird things is Billy Sheehan buying in the truck stops at 3 a.m.?
Oh, yeah. We always do. It's a little bit of Americana, and every region has some different things. So the oddball things that truckers bolt onto their trucks or strange-looking bumper stickers saying God knows what. I'll always check it out. It's really, really wonderful. Truck drivers, of course, without them, we'd all starve to death in about a day. So I have great respect for those guys. And traveling around the country like this is really great. You put your thumb on the pulse of what's going on in America with people. Same as at a show afterwards, I'll always come out, say hi to people and talk and hang out. It's wonderful to do. I'm lucky to have a lot of friends around the world I can do that with. But meeting people and seeing the country, that's a beautiful thing. I really do enjoy it.
You guys are going to spend pretty much all year out on the road in support of your new album, 3, that just came out. And now that you're out on the road for the year, do you guys write new music while you're on the road, or do you guys wait until you get off tour and go into a studio to work on song ideas?
Well, every day is a pretty full day. There's almost no time at all. I always tell people, Hey, some say I want to come down and say hi after the show. Oh, you can't. But before show and show, it's so busy. Usually, there's not enough time for anything. Once in a while, we'll get a little thing, and I've got my iPhone here that I'm speaking to you on now, and just put it on selfie video, face it to yourself, and with my bass or with a guitar, I'll sit down and croak out some vocals and a little song idea, save them all. I got thousands of those. So those may eventually become songs later on when we get down to real songwriting. But and I'll always sit around as I'm playing bass to come up with some new lick or new idea. I'll always videotape it. So it's there. So my I don't have much memory left on my phone as a result.
It is amazing how much memory they've been able to cram into those phones, though, right?
Mind-blowing.
I think it was a quote that you said, actually, about the makeup of Winery Dogs, and that, you know, when you're a band of 4 or 5 members, sometimes, you know, somebody can hide or you can function when a member is down. But when you're a 3-piece, everyone has so much heavy lifting that you can't function without all 3 of you there. Was it you that said that?
No, but I agree with that. It's very true. You can't, we always got to be, all of us, at the top of our game. Then I'm playing bass and singing, and also I play this instrument with my feet, which is like a little keyboard that you play with your foot. They're called bass pedals, but I can program it to play piano parts or whatever. So I actually am playing with my feet as well as the bass and singing. It gets a little complicated. Like, you pat your head and rub your stomach at the same time. But we all go the extra mile on performance. Mike Portnoy is legendary for his live performance, and Richie is just killing it. His voice is so great. So we all have to push extra. But I like that. I like really hitting it hard. I like coming off the stage soaking wet and totally spent. Take a shower, get on the bus, and repeat. That's heaven for me.
When you and I sat down and talked last time, you kind of explained the bass's role in the song and in the performance. But I wanted to talk to you about you kind of being the intermediary between these 2 legendary musicians that you're talking about. When it comes to the rhythm section of the band, the bass player and the drummer, they're the backbone of everything. But you're the backbone with Mike Portnoy, who is arguably one of the greatest rock and roll drummers ever. Can you talk about you two and your playing style and your on-stage give and take?
Well, there's an ESP that happens between bass and drums, where Mike will do a move, and I will do that exact same move, never having discussed it, never planning it. We'd never done it before, and we may never do it since. It's an automatic little thing that happens. And I watch drummers really closely. I'm all about the drums. Drums give us time. Bass gives time a pitch. And from that pitch, you build your chords and melodies. So bass is the glue between time, rhythm, and melody, making those 2 things work together. Over the pandemic, I recorded over 600 songs for clients around the world. And we get a song with no bass on it. We think, man, what? I look at my engineer. Well, I'm not sure what we're going to do with this. They get a proper bass line going in there. Yeah, it makes sense now. It really comes together. Not because it's my playing, but just to hear a bass added to a song that doesn't have it. It really is an amazing change in the way that song affects you and the way you hear it. So Mike is truly a great player, but he's also overall a great musician. So he understands pitch and notes and harmonies and things like that. And that is a really extra gift that Mike has. It's a super asset in any band he plays. He'll know, if you're going to a particular key, no, that's the wrong key. Well, where should I go? And he'll sing it if he can't name it. And he's right. So after a while, learning songs in some of the bands I played with Mike, and somebody'd have an argument. No, the chorus is 2 bars. No, it's 4 bars. 4 bars. Mike, what is it? He goes, it's 2 bars. I go, it's 2 bars. Trust me. Because he always knows that stuff. So he's a huge asset in that respect. And playing with him, the bass drum is my main focus. The pattern he's playing on that, I play notes to that pattern. And then there's also frosting to go on that cake as well. But it's an interesting dynamic between bass and drums. So we lay down a big, thick 18 inches of structural concrete foundation for guitars and vocals. And that makes them feel easy. They got this giant thing underneath them holding things together. So they start to relax a little better and perform better. So that's kind of what our job is.
And in a 3-piece, unlike a 4, 5, 6, however many piece rock band, the pressure of lead guitar and vocals normally doesn't fall on the same guy. And so for Richie, while you've got this backbone of the band with Mike, because you're singing and playing bass, you've also got to have your other eye on Richie because he's driving everything forward. There's no room for error with just 3 of you.
It's true. And a lot of times Richie, because I'm used to being in a 3-piece band and making up for the lack of keyboard or rhythm guitarists on some extra bass things. So some things, it'll just be bass and drums and Richie singing over it. So he can lay back a little bit and just concentrate fully on his voice, which has been just amazing on this record. I just, what a performance he gave on this record. Really great. So, and having 3 guys, it's easier for me to watch 2 than to watch 3 or 4 guys on stage. So I'm on stage right, so I'm looking to my left to see Richie and Mike, and I'm always keep my eyes on those guys. We watch each other really closely, so that interaction and communication happens in a live performance is just priceless. One guy makes a move, we know exactly what to do, where to go, pull back, push forward, get out of his way, back him up, harmonize, counterpoint, all the things you can do with another musician. 3 guys does make it easier.
When you and I sat down the first time, you talked about that amazing moment as a kid when you saw the Beatles on TV and that inspired you to want to become a musician. But when I talk to musicians, I always want to kind of find out the soundtrack to their childhood and the music that you got gifted with, because my mom gifted me with a love of the Beatles, and that was something that completely shaped my life. So growing up, did you grow up in a musical household, and what was gifted to you musically by your parents?
Yeah, my mom was a big fan. She was a big Sinatra fan, Tony Bennett, Ella Fitzgerald, the great singers. And vocals are really the key. We got The Voice and America's, and all the talent shows on TV. It's usually always a singer. that is, you don't see many bass players and drummers on those shows. So vocals being so important and so essential, I was lucky to grow up with great vocalists around me. And then my mom was very accepting of a lot of the new music when it came out, the Beatles and stuff like that. She could recognize that it was good, but she still had her heart back there in her teenage years, which was Sinatra and Tony Bennett. So, and then I had older brother and sisters who were all into music. So I, being a little kid, would hear music those couple of years ahead of what I normally would have heard. So the Everly Brothers, Jerry Lee Lewis, all the pre-Beatles, Beach Boys. I got hit with the pre-Beatles. That was pretty cool because the youth culture was really starting. Then when the Beatles came out, all bets were off. Everything changed, and everybody went for the Beatles. So, and then that changed and shifted, but it was still Beatles-centric in a lot of ways. As they progressed in their records, the White Album and Let It Be and things like that, they got more introspective on their music. It wasn't just, I Want to Hold Your Hand anymore. It was songs about life and the world. And we kind of, a lot of people grew up with it in that same curve of understanding as you get older. So for me, it was an unlimited amount of inspiration from classical music, the Beatles and the Stones, of course. My first concert was Jimi Hendrix. And because I saw Jimmy at my first live rock show, that was a huge influence on me to try to be, I wanted to be that. I wanted to be something like that, and not necessarily guitar, but I wanted to be on stage. And Jimmy was cool. I always say he's the coolest human being ever. And he was so cool. And he grabbed all of our attention. So the influences were such a broad spectrum at that time. So you could be almost anything. I don't like to see now when people just listen to one kind of music. And the radio stations, because there was no internet, they play Joni Mitchell, and then Simon and Garfunkel, and then some Cream and Beatles, and then a classical piece, and then a jazz, thing, and everybody listened to everything, and they loved it. You saw them by the bands that would tour together, all these different bands. I saw Mott the Hoople, the New York Dolls, and Aerosmith together, all touring together. And now, I don't know if some fans of one band would be fans of another, but back then we loved them all. It was so great. So I'm lucky I'm an old man, but I'm glad to have lived through all that.
Did you start the musical tradition in your family, or are there actual musicians? Is it genetic or is it learned? Your musical ability?
I think it's learned. I had no musicians in the family. I think it's learned. I never had any natural talent either. I didn't like pick up the guitar and, hey, look at them go. I had to struggle through every note and figure out how does this work? And I don't get it. And I still do a lot. I still work a lot on my playing, and I'm still learning a lot. But my dad was a recitationist. And then he would recite stories and poems as entertainment. And as a young man, he'd go to the pubs and tell stories, and people would, clap, and he'd, pass the hat or something like that. But he was really good at entertaining. And to tell a story is very much like singing a song. A lot of songs are made up of a little story. And so I learned a lot from him about how to keep people's interest and how to express something in a way that they would understand. So that was, to some degree, entertainment. But no other musicians. I was the only one. And they had very little faith in me until I finally started to see some results, and then they all got on board.
What started first? Could you write lyrics first? Did you write poems and stories as a kid? Was it the guitar first, or did you sing first?
My first instrument was actually drums, and I borrowed my sister's acoustic guitar until I had a bass. So I learned the basis of chords and how to play songs in chords, which was really valuable. I always tell bass players, you got to learn chords, you got to learn guitar, you got to learn drums, you got to learn it's best to know those instruments around you really well, because you can communicate to the musicians that play those better. So I've always written and played guitar, but bass has been my specialty instrument. I can write on bass, but it's a little hard to sing and play bass and write. So if I'm just strumming, it's way easier. The first instrument I sat down with was drums, learned to play chords, bass was my thing right away. But you couldn't get a bass that weren't as common, so it was hard to. If you were a bass player and had a bass, you could be in 10 bands, because there were no bass players. Everybody wanted to be a guitar player, so that was a good thing. So I got my bass, and instantly I was out performing live, and as a bass player.
How does the songwriting process work with the Winery Dogs? Is it anyone brings an idea to the table? Is it riff driven? Is it melody first? Is it a lyric? How does it start?
All those ways. A lot of people often think there's one way to write a song. There's as many ways to write a song as there are songs. There's all kinds of ways to approach it. I had a wonderful day I spent with Holly Knight, a very famous, incredible songwriter. And I was very happy to see that she writes down titles. There's no song. Just write down titles. Sounds like a title. Sounds like a song. Hear a single phrase or a couple of words that make a little concise idea. And then from that grows, and then sing them in amongst some chords, and suddenly lyrics and a story can build. A lot of people think you have to have all your ducks in a row right away and get it all figured out and plan and go in and put your song together. It can be just a couple little chords and a couple of blah, blah, a melody, blah, blah. Oh, when I sing that melody, it sounds like I'm saying whatever phrase. So let's use that phrase. Okay, now where does it build from there? Nashville is a great place for songwriters of all styles. And I think a good song will work in almost any style as well. Songwriting for the Winery Dogs, we got together in a room and just tossed ideas around. Mike is playing a beat. I start playing a bass line to it, and that's how I think Stars started. That little bass beat, and Richie started singing on the top of it. Okay, where do we go for a chorus? Let's go here. And it just kind of happens, to let it happen. So I encourage songwriters to don't worry about the rules of songwriting or the methodology. Start writing stuff down. Start getting ideas. A little melody with some chords, a phrase. I have whole books that are just titles. Mr. Big Song, Addicted to That Rush, was a title for about 10 years. And we were fooling around and they, oh, wait, I got some lyrics that'll work for that. How about that? Okay. Now, and then the song grew, Addicted to That Rush. Why? Well, I love it when I feel that surge of love when when you meet somebody new and you get excited about them. Okay, bang, there's the song. There's the story. Now fill in the words. So it's not as complicated as many people think, but there is certainly a real talent to proper great songwriting. And those guys are generally few and far between and very valuable. So I try to take as many cues from people like that. I had a wonderful writing experience with Desmond Child, who wrote Livin' La Vida Loca and got a million other hits. And just watching him function and seeing how it works together, it's pretty fascinating. But I think anyone can do it if you apply yourself.
Do you remember the first song you ever wrote?
Yeah, sadly. It was a song called Magic Takes Work. I still got recordings of it in the back. I think the chorus was, I can't remember, but it was the idea that there is magic, but it ain't easy. You gotta work at it to make it happen. And we played it live about 2 or 3 times and then abandoned it. And never be afraid to throw away songs. Just toss it away. Maybe later on you'll pull something away. But sometimes for some records, I've written 20 or 30 songs, and then 10 end up being recorded.
We're in this amazing time where there's a lot of great music coming out, and artists are coming out of this weird time in their lives where they weren't able to tour. The world was kind of shut down, and bands seem to have gone one of two ways with the process of working on new music, that they either wanted to reflect the crazy world that was happening around them, or they wanted to be a distraction from it. Was that a conscious decision that you guys made on this record?
No, we didn't even really discuss it. We tried to stay out of it because we're pummeled with it constantly at every turn. There's just insane, crazy news and catastrophes, and it's a tough time for a lot of people mentally. Okay, so we did the song Mad World. We touched on it a little bit, but the message being, we live in a mad world. We got to help each other. That's what the message there is. We got to take care of each other. So forget about all that stuff. Let's concentrate on each other, making our lives better and enjoy our lives together. Otherwise, most of it is all entertainment or introspection. I've never been a political writer. I do try to do stories and ideas that inspire and that reflect upon things that people should know more about. But we didn't really discuss any plan. Most of the bands I work with, and it's funny when we do interviews in Japan, they always have this idea. Well, you went in with a plan to this. Was your plan to do that? No. There was never any plan. We were a rudderless ship on a windless sea, going one way or the other, and it just happens. If I do a bass solo, I have no idea what I'm going to do. I go up and I start, and my hands feel this way, so I make a left turn, and they feel that way, and make a right turn. And that improvisational spirit, I give a lot of that, of course, to jazz, which was some of the underpinnings of the whole idea of that improvisation. But it really is liberating to be able to just fly. Sometimes you run into trouble, though. At the solo at the end of Mad World, we just had another 8 bars to fill in. I started doing a little bass solo, and I was just flying. I wasn't thinking of what I was doing. And so I had to learn it for the tour. So I thought, since it's on the record, I want to play the solo the way I played it. It took me about 3 days to figure out what in the world I was doing because I was not thinking. And finally did get it. I can't wait to play it live, but it was not easy at all. So that improvisational thing where you're letting just flying freely, it's a really valuable thing in the arts, I believe, in general.
When you go to any rock show, you now see these generations of rock fans where you're seeing a love of rock and roll gifted to people's kids and grandkids sometimes. And So for me, when I go and look at a show, it's like, okay, the concept that rock might be dead is a false concept, because this love of this gift of rock music is being gifted down to these new generations. What's it like for you to look out in the crowd and see people that are only old enough to really know you from Winery Dogs and not know all of the other things that you've done in your career previously?
That's interesting. It really is great, and because the media that we see concentrates on one type of music, and they don't concentrate on rock at all anymore. People do get the impression, oh, rock, I don't know something. But you go to European festivals, there are hundreds of thousands of people who camp out for days, and there are dozens of festivals. South America, out of control. You go down there with rock, and with the audience to sing the solos. When the guitar solos, the audience sings the solo along with them. They know all the lyrics. They know everything about it. It's really a great time for rock in a lot of ways. It doesn't seem it because we don't see it there, but it is. We're sold out tonight here in Greensburg. Already, a bunch of shows are already sold out on this first part of this run, and I imagine a lot of them will go clean too. They'll be completely sold out. So, seeing younger kids, I was a kid. I was 7 or 8 when I first heard the Everly Brothers and started to fall in love with music, and it stays with me to this day. So I'd like to thank the parents of these kids for bringing them up right. And we see a lot of little kids playing guitar, bass, and drums that are unbelievable, amazing. I stood on the shoulders of many greats, and that was a huge asset to me and a big help to me in my playing. And so others that do that to me, or guitarists like Richie or Steve Vai, or drummers like Mike, they have a jump start because we didn't have YouTube or we had to slow the record down to try to figure the notes out. Even then, it was usually wrong. But it's all explained to them explicitly now, so they can their start there is a jump start, and they can ascend very quickly with incredible skill. So some of the young players, wow, just inhuman. It's unbelievable what they're doing. So I think we're going to see music grow and evolve. And I do believe the heart and soul of what we refer to as rock, that heavy impact, that's going to continue on always. It'll always be there.
These younger rock fans are now growing up hearing about like the craziness of the 70s and the 80s. And, your time with David Lee Roth, like you were smack dab in the middle of that. And without YouTube and social media to kind of document it, which would totally change the trajectory. That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, we'd all be in trouble, I think. No, but in fact, it's not true with every band. And I'm not saying this for any self-aggrandizement here, but we were always respectful. We did our shenanigans, but it was never a disrespectful or destructive thing. And in all the bands I've been in, there was not a drug thing going on. I mean, once in a while, one guy, a little thing, whatever, but there was no drug or alcohol problems in any of the bands I've been in. I'm glad to say. So, and that's why all of them are mostly all, thank goodness, have survived and done well. But there were some amazing times, and I was right there with it. I mean, I saw everybody doing everything that was going on. I just didn't choose to partake in that part of it. Other aspects I did partake in. But again, it was always a respectful thing. And I don't like to see people think that it was complete chaos and just insanity. We had a riot. We had a blast. It was great. And but not everybody went off the deep end completely. So
you made it out of the 80s with almost no regrets, which is impressive. However, do you see old photos of yourself and say, what the hell was I thinking when I put that outfit on?
I think everybody in every genre and every era did. Yeah, we get heat later on that we wore spandex back in the day. And my comeback is, it's the NFL wears it today. All the football players, that's all spandex. So, and they were stretchy. We were running around, and it worked out all right.
Yeah, do you see all the girls at the shows too? It didn't hurt you at all.
Oh man, yeah, it was a great time. Fortunately, I didn't. Well, I had a time in the early 70s, 73, 74, where I post photos of it once in a while. If I want to get 3,000 comments, I'll just post a picture of me in my 6-inch heel, 4-inch platform boots, looking so skinny. My mother used to say I look like 6 o'clock. She was with her wisdom. And it was during I got the idea from Overend Watts, the bass player from Mott the Hoople. I saw him with those boots when I went to the show I mentioned earlier. And in Toronto, there's a guy that made them. So I went up and I had a whole bunch made. And before Kiss didn't even exist yet. And so for a while, we'd walk into a club and people had no idea what just happened. It was pretty wild. I got to post some photos of that again sometime. And, But looking back, I'm glad I did that. It was a riot. It was cool. It was the Bowie era. It was the glam era. We had a riot. And then I went to a little bit more sensible clothing.
I just talked to Chris Daughtry about that, and it's a good thing that they invented spandex, because in the 70s, especially for guys, we theorized that was how the guys hit all those high notes, because their jeans couldn't get any tighter. I don't know how anyone was able to move in the 70s, because denim doesn't give.
No, it does not. Yeah, you can't move. You don't see guys on a football field or an MMA wearing denim. It doesn't work. So yeah, it worked out great. And there became an athleticism to the shows too. I mean, on the Eat 'em a Smile tour, Steve and I were running across a stage that was about 50 yards back and forth, and about 30 yards deep, giant, with all those platforms and levels. And we're running up and down stairs and flying back and forth with our wireless thing. I get over to the other side of the stage. I couldn't hear my bass at all. So I'd be playing visually. I think this is the note I'm supposed to be on. And we would end the show hot and sweaty. It was a riot.
What did you think about that story that he just got reunited with that Swiss cheese guitar that got stolen all those years ago, and he just got it back?
That's wonderful. Yeah, nothing worse than people stealing instruments. If you know of anyone that has something they shouldn't have, please let the artist know. And I know myself, I have a few instruments that are missing. I say, people, I just want it back. I just want it back. You're not in trouble. Please, these mean a lot to us as musicians. There's not a lot of worth in them, really. Well, maybe Steve's guitar was, because he's so famous. But in fact, they mean a lot to us. And for people to steal them, it's like stealing a mechanic's tools. These things we need, and they mean a lot to us. I'm glad he got it back.
Not only do you need it, but for an instrument that gives you a song, to be able to have that instrument, but then you get to the point where you've written so many songs over a career, you've got a house full of instruments. And then you have to decide, do you still keep all of yours, or have you been able to find a comfortable balance where you could get rid of some?
It's pretty uncomfortable. There's a lot of, I got in my man cave, I got a lot of walls, and they're all full. So now there's racks of other guitars, but they all mean something to me. Maybe some of the ones that don't mean as much, I may want to remove them and make some more room, whatever. But my original P bass that I started my musical life with, I still have it. It's still there.
Wait, that's the one that is the nickname. Isn't she the girlfriend or something? Did you have a nickname for her?
It's the wife.
The wife. I knew it was something like that.
Yeah, I post about her once in a while. About 4 or 5 guys around the world have made duplicates of her. And the 30-year anniversary Yamaha bass was inspired by the sunburst finish and all the colors of that original instrument. Still have it, still plays great. When I do my master classes in Nashville, I usually bring it with me because a lot of people want to see it and play it and take a photo with it. So I always bring it along. So they mean a lot to us players. Our instruments, we spend a lot of time with them, and we work a lot of things out. We go through a lot of emotion with them as well. It's great therapy to play music. The pandemic was tough for everybody. I'd get up, feed the cat, go down to my man cave, and play for hours. It was just really comforting, and the cat was already fed, so he didn't bother me.
Well, I have to ask you about the cat, because I never thought to ask what musicians name their animals until I talked to Geezer Butler, and he told me that he names all of his animals after gangster rappers, and now I'm fascinated by what you choose to name your animals. So what's the cat's name?
The cat is Rebel. Now, we got I'll do it. I won't waste too much of your time, but we had a cat that I had for 19 years. She was 21 years old. And when I met my wife and got married, and the first time my wife came to my house and sat down, the cat got on her instantly. So this cat meant so much to us. Little 4-pound, little scrawny, a pissed off old lady. But she was the sweetest thing. She just wanted to be on you and purring. And she was going downhill, downhill, downhill. On Thanksgiving night, we lost her about 3 or 4 years ago. Maybe 5 years, sorry. And we were devastated. And so my wife said, could we just go look at a cat? I thought, hey, I know that's going to go. So we went to the orphanage. We're going to one, and turns out it was going to close too soon. So we turned around and went back the other way towards Franklin and went to another orphanage. Went into a room. There was cages of cats, a lower cage and an upper cage, and they were all black. It was like Spooky, our original cat, was kind of guiding us. That sounds crazy, I know, but they were all black. And so I leaned over, and there was one little guy, leaned over, put my hands on my knees, and he reached up and put his paw on my face.
He chose
and I
you.
Said, we have a winner. Yeah, it's true. Most of my cats have chosen me. Spooky did before Rebel, and Monkey did before. They're all my black. I have 4 black cats. Quasi, Monkey, Spooky, and now Rebel. So we took him home, and he's the sweetest guy ever. So I remember saying to my wife, well, I don't know if I like the name Rebel. It turns out he had a brother in the page, and it was Rebel and Sheriff, I think from Dukes of Hazzard or something. I don't know. So we wanted to take the brother, but 2 cats sometimes is too much. So we took him home, and we wanted to do I thought, well, we got to think of a name for him. She goes, no, I like Rebel. I said, oh, okay. So I wasn't too happy, but it turns out it was a perfect name for him. Because it's exactly what he is. He does things his way, the only way. You cannot call him, hey, kitty. Nothing. He'll show up maybe a few minutes later and wonder what the noise was. But he is the sweetest, greatest little guy. And we ache with love for him so much. So we didn't name him. But Spooky was named because she would jump at everything. She was just a nervous little girl. And Monkey was because he was a little monkey crawling around like a little spider monkey. But Rebel is just a great cat. And we got him soon after we lost Spooky. So many times people comment they lost their cat or their dog, and I say, my condolences. But there's a dog or a cat in an orphanage somewhere that doesn't have a home. And you got a home. If you have a cat, you already got your pan, you got your feeding station, you got all ready for a new guy to come in. And he fixed our broken hearts. He was just great. We love this cat so much.
Everybody's animals got so spoiled because everybody was home for so long. And now you just want to leave the house and they get mad at you now.
Yeah, he saw the suitcase and figured it out. I can see already it was starting to bum out. But we got him. He's a little tiny guy. He's 20 pounds now. Big, giant. He walks, we call him a big old bear. He walks like a bear now. He's so great. We love him so much.
You're going to be away from the cat a lot because not only is Winery Dogs out on the road, but before I let you go, fill me in on anything you can tell me about what's going on with Mr. Big, too, because you're going to be busy.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy year. We're hoping to do some stuff with Mr. Big. There's no solid plans yet. We've spoken to a gentleman who we think could be the right drummer because he's got a great voice. No one has figured it out online yet. People keep saying Dean Castronova, who's an amazing drummer, an incredible singer. I love him completely. It's not him. It's not Greg Bissonette. It's not Mike Portnoy. But he has some other obligations right now. We can't announce his name. As soon as we can, we will. And when he's free to have it be announced. So we're hoping to do some shows. And we want to pay tribute to our drummer, Pat Torpy, who passed away. That's kind of the main reason. And also maybe say a really good final and real farewell and do a proper farewell tour and shows that will just thank everyone for an incredible career as a band. And so there's nothing really booked yet and nothing really solidly set in stone. So that's the plan. And as you know, the plans don't always come to be. A lot of people have jumped the gun and wonder when we're going to get on a bus and tour all over the world for months and months and months. I don't think it'll be that extensive of a tour, but the dates will be announced well in advance. And if people want to come to, get to the city and see us play, but we're going to do as much as we can and see how it goes. And again, I just don't know so much to say with certainty how many shows or where. So hopefully we can do as much as possible. I love playing with Eric and Pat, and the drummer, the gentleman that's going to play drums is spectacular and sings great. Matt Starr did a great job for Mr. Big. He played drums when Pat couldn't play, and Pat was just singing on stage. And then we did some shows after Pat passed away with Matt. He did a great job. But Matt's a tenor. Pat was an alto. We need that high note for that harmony. And we are very grateful for the amazing job that Matt did for us. Unfortunately, we really need that higher voice. Because when Pat was with him singing, we had that traditional 3-piece harmony behind the lead singer. But we need a guy that can sing in that pitch range. So we do have a guy. We'll be announcing him very soon.
Well, rock fans are loyal to a fault, so you can't blame them for, guessing and pushing you guys toward, because once a rock fan loves you, they love you forever, which is how you get gifted these amazing long careers. And I think rock is different than any other kind of music where once you find fans, you've got them for life. I agree.
Yeah, I agree completely, because I'm a fan, and I'm a fan for life of all the bands I love. Everything I have, my home, all my possessions, everything of worth or value that I own comes from a fan buying a ticket, a T-shirt, or a record. I never forget that ever. And I don't know if too many people do much more than I, if I may say, keeping in touch with fans on the internet and commenting and answering and responding. I remember doing clinics years ago before we had social media. So, anybody in this room get an email from me? And half of the hands went up, So I used to do it the old-fashioned way by email. So I really appreciate that. Yeah, and speculation has been entertaining. It's been funny. And like I said, Dean is just what a grandmaster he is. But I know he's busy with Journey, couldn't do it. But we did find a guy, and I apologize for being evasive and not being able to announce it. But it's up to him to have the business freedom to make that announcement, because he has other obligations. So we're just about at that point. We will let everyone know.
Well, we look forward to finding out who it is.
Great.
Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Congratulations on the record and tour. It was great to see you again.
Thank you so much. Maybe the next time there's a Rockin' Pod thing, I'll see you there. If not, if you ever need anything from me, get in touch, and I'm here for you.
There he is, the one and only Billy Sheehan from the Winery Dogs. And since we sat down to record that episode, Mr. Big has announced the Big Finish Tour. The first leg of the tour is slated for Japan and Southeast Asia in July and August, with shows in South America, Europe, and the U.S. set to launch in early 2024. The band also announced taking over drumming responsibility of Mr. Big is longtime friend of the band, Nick DiVerglio. And if you want more information on Billy Sheehan and the Winery Dogs tour, check the links in the show notes of this episode. You'll also find all of my links as well, and the link to Billy's bonus episode from 2021. You'll also find the link to the corresponding playlist for this episode. I make a playlist for every episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that's filled with all of my guest music and all the music we referenced in the interview. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, share, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday. Plus, every weekday, you get the sit rep. It's all of your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment industry info boiled down to about 5 minutes. And you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. And now, the Mistress Carrie podcast is available on YouTube. Get the details on all that and more at mistresscarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.